The series may now be over, but fans can continue to get their Red Dwarf fix with Series 11, the game. With a brand new level based on the second episode, how is the game continuing to hold up? What are the advancements? And just what might the future hold? I'm Alex from Gazpacho Soup, and I'm here to talk to you about the Samsara section of Red Dwarf 11, the game. Before we get to Samsara though, since our last video, various amendments have been made to the Twentica levels. That video was made just after the game had already been updated a few times to fix initial issues, so it's heartening to see that the updates are still continuing to make the best gameplay possible for fans. There have been various improvements such as the all-important use of health packs through the various levels, and small tweaks such as a better question selection at the Lady Be Good Club. Particularly stand out, however, are two major changes. The first of these is to the opening level, Ship Scan. Previously, this had been very much a point-and-shoot affair, with Starbug travelling on rails and the player tasked with taking out oncoming asteroids to clear a path and allow the bug to scan the derelict ship. While this level was fine in and of itself, we'd be lying if we said that we hadn't wished for a bit more controllability of Starbug, and that's exactly what this update provides. While the path of the ship is still dictated on a rail system, the player can now freely move the bug around the screen to dodge obstacles, pick up power packs, and move into line to shoot oncoming targets. Even though the level plays out in essentially the same manner, this new system of play makes the player feel more like they are in control, even with the rail system, and gives an impression of freedom of movement that elevates this level to be the most fun in the Twentica section by some margin. The other new update that's made a difference to the feel of the game is the inclusion of new dialogue. Previously, this had mostly been confined to the cutscenes, but now in the opening level when flying the bug, the crew chip in with various lines commenting on your progress, or occasionally with a quick bit of funny material. It helps remind you on levels where only the ship and not the characters themselves are visible that they are still present and involved in the story, which was far easier to overlook before. This also extends to the following on-foot level, with Rimmer Hostage having been given a dialogue overhaul. Now, when playing the level, Rimmer will often talk to the Expanoids he is about to shoot in an attempt to weasel his way out of the situation. It's a very good addition that helps us to get a hold of a bit more of the character traits in the gameplay, and lines such as Rimmer's exchange here are genuinely amusing. So with these amendments in place, it's no surprise that some of these new mechanics would carry across into the Samsara level, along with a few that we've seen before. We always expected that between the episodes there would be some reasonably large amount of reuse in terms of gameplay type and indeed level design, as was evidenced in Twentica, which is only to be expected in a game of this nature. It's a pleasant surprise therefore to see the game start with a dodge the obstacle minigame that doesn't simply copy the mechanics of a previous level, even if it is vaguely similar to the driving levels in Twentica. It's a fairly gentle introduction to the level, but one that can prove deceptive if you become complacent, with a wrong turn immediately requiring quick responses. It's also fitting that a level based on an episode that breaks the show's mould in featuring numerous scenes in the past with none of the main crew dedicates levels to these characters as well as the dwarfers. More on that later, but before we leave this level, we must take a moment to acknowledge how much the distance to the end gauge is appreciated. It seems like a small thing, but when playing Find the Club or Find Rachel before either was updated, we would probably have happily killed any small furry animal of your choice just to end the frustration. As we return to the dwarf crew, the mechanics put in place with the Twentica update immediately pay off in the Find Samsara level. Like Ship Scan, the path of the travel is dictated on rails, with the movement afforded to the player allowing them to move around the screen to dodge oncoming obstacles or take them out. If this makes the level sound like just a repeat on the Twentica ones though, it doesn't come across that way, and a lot of what helps here is the radical difference in setting. As with the previous level, we expand slightly on what was presented in the episode, seeing the dwarfers navigate the underwater caverns of an ocean moon to find the SS Samsara, all while chipping in with new dialogue as the previous update put in place. But unlike Ship Scan, it feels a lot more fast-paced, with a more careful consideration required to the path the player will take, and an alertness to make sure that the blockages in the tunnel are removed in time. Just like Ship Scan, however, the impression of freedom of movement makes this level immensely playable, and a real highlight of the Samsara update. If the two major types of gameplay in Twentica were ship piloting and on-foot sneaking, it won't surprise anyone that the next two levels feature the latter of these game types. Yet Game Digits have made a good effort to stop these feeling repetitive by varying slightly what is required for each one. In Explore Samsara, we see Lister exploring the skeleton-strewn ship in a way very reminiscent to the first half of the Rimmer Hostage level, with the objective being to dodge gas and electric charges. But in the next level, Meet Rachel, where once again we take control of a guest character, the mission is a stealth one. Consequently, even though we're traversing much the same map, the gameplay does feel different and improves on Twentica's 2 stealth missions that are more or less the same. It's also worth noting that this video review is being filmed after an initial update has already been applied to allow a chance for initial bugs to be removed. It also means that since the first version, the difficulty of Find Rachel has been greatly reduced. Previously, it was intensely difficult to make it to the end of the level without being seen multiple times, leaving the player feeling as frustrated as Jim Green must be feeling sexually. One other thing of interest in these levels is the opening to explore Samsara, with Rimmer's cracking of the door code. As Game Digits have revealed, it's a scene that lifts dialogue from the script for Samsara that was deleted from the final episode and didn't feature in any of the deleted scenes on the DVD. However, whether its lack of inclusion is due to intent to reuse in the future or just simply having been overlooked is something that remains to be seen. These make up the majority of the Samsara section gameplay, and the final level, Escape Samsara, essentially repeats Find Samsara in the same way that Time Surf is repeated in Time Surf Back. However, just as with Twentica, we also have a couple of minigames featuring different types of gameplay, both of which are also different to what was included in the last episode. Firstly, we have Cat Logic, a very brief minigame based around the Archimedes dialogue, though fortunately shorter than that section was in the episode. You'd be hard-pressed not to pass through this level quickly, given it's difficult to get the answers wrong if you've already seen the episode, though we do appreciate the addition of a couple of extra questions that weren't in the episode at the end. The other level, meanwhile, Karma Hack, is far harder in comparison. A Simon Says type memory game, this is the sort of thing that minigames are made of. What starts with a relatively easy to remember set of sequences gets a lot harder in the second half with twice as many potential symbols to remember. However, if any level had to be the hardest to complete, we're at least glad it's the easiest to cheat on, though if a time limit was introduced, we'd all be screwed. It's also nice that while the hardest level isn't the last, it's just before the end and makes the length of the overall game feel more natural than say in Twentica, where the hardest level fell in the middle. It's especially important here given that Samsara has 7 levels to Twentica's 11. You might expect us to complain at the shorter length, but we honestly can't. Considering that unless you're buying access to the new episodes as you haven't completed the last, the only time you'd need to pay towards the game is for the initial download, it's somewhat unrealistic to expect 6 episodes of the same length of Twentica. What's more, some episodes are clearly more game-friendly than others, and Samsara was never going to be the easiest to turn into a game. And with a reduced stream of income beyond those in-app purchases, we do wonder how the funding will be applied to the upcoming editions, or whether the majority was used in Twentica so that the following episodes can use the same mechanics on different maps, thus cutting down some of the costs. How this develops over the coming episodes remains to be seen, but on the strength of Samsara, we don't really feel that there's been any drop-off. As a mobile game, it has continued to provide a nice variety of gameplay, and the continuing amendments have only strengthened the base of the game that was already in place. With Give and Take perhaps being the episode that provides the most potential to adapt into a game, we'll certainly be excited to see what Game Digits can do. We also hope that the greater use of new dialogue from Doug can continue to expand the episodes beyond what was seen on TV. And that's our review. Have you played the game? What were your thoughts? Is there anything you're hoping to see in Give and Take or future episodes? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, then please like, share or subscribe to this channel. You can also check out our website, despacho-soup.com, for all the latest Red Dwarf news, reviews, features, and every edition of the Garbage Podcast. I'm Alex, and from me and the rest of Gazpacho Soup, we'll see you soon.